Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor and the Principal, Professor Nana Poku, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the inaugural lecture of Professor Pragashnie Govender. The Vice Chancellor conveys his congratulations and best wishes to Professor Pragashnie Govender, who we fondly know as Pri. I would like to acknowledge the following guests this afternoon: members of the University Council, members of the Executive Management, members of Senate, our inaugurant this afternoon, Professor Pragashnie Govender, family and friends of Professor Govender, academics and professional staff, students, alumni, and distinguished guests. A special welcome to our guests from universities and organizations within South Africa, the African continent, and across the globe. My name is Professor Busincama. I'm the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Head of the College of Health Sciences. Inaugural lectures form part of the University Public Lecture series and may only be presented by newly appointed full professors who have been appointed in academic schools and centers. Inaugural lectures present an opportunity for showcasing the exciting and groundbreaking research and teaching being carried out by professors in our university. Each lecture represents a significant milestone in an academic career's success, providing official recognition of their promotion or appointment to full professorship. These lectures are furthermore an ideal opportunity for new professors to introduce themselves and to present an overview of their own contribution to their field to academic peers, students, and research collaborators. Inaugural lectures are also a platform for celebrating a professor's academic achievements with his or her family, friends, mentors, and colleagues. Distinguished guests, it's my pleasure to now introduce the Dean and Head of School of Health Sciences, Professor Katuchelo Pesimashige, who will now formally introduce the inaugurant, Professor Pragashnie Govender. Over to you, Prof. Mashige. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nama, our DVC, and all honored guests. Professor Pragashnie Govender is a full professor in the discipline of occupational therapy, College of Health Sciences, University of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, South Africa, being the first full professor in the history of the discipline since its inception of the program more than 45 years ago. Professor Govender received the undergraduate and postgraduate degrees from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She was one of the first 13 recipients of the National Health Scholarship Program, now commonly referred to as the Bongani Mayosi National Health Scholarship, which was launched and presented in South African Parliament. She is a multi-award winner, twice a winner of NRF Research Excellence Award as the new generation and early career researcher, twice a first runner-up in the South African Women in Science Award, and twice a finalist in the NSTF South 32 Awards. Professor Govender joined the discipline of occupational therapy at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in 2009, first as a senior tutor and ascended to the ranks of lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor, and then full professor in 2023. She has successfully completed the supervision of 10 doctoral students and 40 master students, mentored 2 postdoc fellows, and published over 100 research articles and 4 book chapters in multiple journals across health disciplines. Her current research focus and passion have always been in the field of pediatrics, especially in early detection and intervention. Professor Govender has served as an examiner in all the other 7 training universities offering occupational therapy in the country, either in the undergraduate, master's, or doctoral programs, as well as international universities. She holds several international and national certificates in multiple areas of occupational therapy practice. Professor Govender has been an invited speaker at a number of international conferences in over 13 countries and multiple workshops, amongst others. She has had the opportunity to give invited talks and serve as a keynote speaker locally. Prof. Govender is a National Research Foundation C2 rated researcher, having initially received a Y rating in 2018. She has served in a professional association as associate assistant editor and in various scientific committees, and as a grant and panel reviewer. She has been honored to most recently be appointed to the Ministerial Committee on Child Mortality and Morbidity in South Africa. Professor Govender is a member of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, the Occupational Therapy Association of South Africa, the Occupational Therapy Africa Regional Group, the World Federation of Occupational Therapy, the South African Institute of Sensory Integration, the South African Medical Legal Society, and the Organization of Women in the Developing World. Professor Govender is part of a blessed family unit with a supportive husband, mother, and an extended family, and a mom to a very special 8-year-old daughter. I now invite the inaugurant, Professor Govender, to deliver her inaugural lecture. Thank you.
We can't hear anything. Is Prof speaking?
Sorry, Prof. We're just getting the presentation ready.
Okay, thank you.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and beloved family members, with all protocol observed. Thank you kindly, Prof. Nkama and Professor Mashige, for that introduction. Today, as I stand here with the opportunity to deliver this lecture, I'm deeply aware that this moment's not mine alone. It's a culmination of sacrifices, resilience, and love. So let me begin with 2 stories. 2 girls born generations apart, each facing developmental challenges, but in vastly different systems. The first girl grew up in an apartheid-era South Africa. She had unexplained musculoskeletal and mild neurological challenges necessitating investigations, unexplained, and early musculoskeletal surgery to both limbs. There were no advanced interventions, and there were no labels. The primary caregivers were a grandmother who was illiterate and a mother with modest education, yet knew how to love unconditionally. This child grew up in the cracks in a neutral family system, living in a female-led household, but she wasn't invisible to them or the larger family system. And maybe, just maybe, that made all the difference. Now, the second girl was born into a different world, in a new era of freedom and justice, born with neurodiversity. Let's call it neurospicy, like she prefers. But unlike the first child's journey, there are words and there are labels for appropriate use. We have tools, we have pathways. She was seen early, she is supported systematically, and today she continues to thrive brilliantly. 2 girls, 2 eras, 2 systems, but one fundamental truth. Every child's potential begins with someone who notices and someone who nurtures. And this is the story of my daughter and I. So a little bit about my background. I was born into a humble home where material wealth was scarce, but the currency of love ran really deep. When I was 4, sadly, my parents divorced and my father left our lives. But for many children, that might have marked the beginning of a story defined by loss. Yet, before the loss could hollow my childhood, it was filled with overflowing love of those who stayed in my life. And that became a testament to the power of presence over absence. No fancy things, but warmth in the air that could never be bought. My mother and grandmother, 2 remarkable women, wrapped my sister and I in a blanket of care and encouragement. They knew how to love fiercely, to nurture patiently, and to quietly plant the seeds of resilience in our hearts. My grandmother was fierce and tender all at once, and I'm sure my family members here would agree. But she nurtured patiently. And whilst she was fierce, she was also tender all at once, and she stood like an anchor in a storm. My mother, with her gentle wisdom, knew just how to wrap strength in kindness. And then there was my uncle and aunt who stepped forward without hesitation. They didn't just help, they folded my sister and me into the fabric of their family as though we had always been stitched there. Family moments, whispering advice on difficult days, all of these became part of our story. Their home was ours, their joy was ours, and their belief in us was unshakable, offering experiences, guidance, and opportunities that broadened our horizons far beyond what our circumstances might have allowed. And because of them, my childhood was not defined by what was missing, but it was defined by the richness of what I had. I grew up in an atmosphere of care so deep that it taught me resilience before I even knew the word. It taught me that love could be deliberate, that generosity could change the trajectory of a life. And back then, I imagined my future in modest terms, to find a job to assist the household, to make ends meet, simply put. But the voices around me, patient, persistent, and full of hope, they nudged me higher. They reminded me that I could do more, I could be more, I could choose more, embrace a world of occupational possibilities I had never even imagined. The society around me placed limitations based on class and status. But I began to reach for possibilities I hadn't dared to dream of. My journey did not start with privilege, but it started with something far greater: people who believed in me. People who believed in me so much that I learned to believe in myself. My story is not only my own. It's a reflection of the love, the care, and the belief that others poured into me, shaping not just my choices, but my very sense of what was possible. And that is why, when I speak about where potential begins, I know it's not an abstract idea. I have lived it. I have felt the difference of nurturing care that makes in shaping a child's sense of self, their capacity to overcome, and the ability to see a future worth striving for. This is why I also believe strongly in early detection, in providing the right support at the right time, and in recognizing the intergenerational power of possibility. Because potential doesn't just happen, it's grown patiently in the soil of love, care, and belief. And when we nurture one child, we don't just change their lives, we change the lives of generations that follow. So beyond academia, I exist in a stable family unit for which I'm so grateful, enacting various roles of a wife to Satish, a mother to lovely Gianna, a daughter, a sister, and thank you to my sister who is joining us online as well, and to my extended family in the UK and my very special family that's also present here. Thank you so much. So these multiple roles have inextricably shaped my professional identity and my quest for success in a competitive higher education setting. So my journey has also been shaped by my work as an occupational therapist, focusing on, as I've already said, early detection for early intervention. And this work is just not professional, it's deeply personal. I'm privileged to be the parent of this little girl. And through this journey, I have come to understand the critical importance of early support and the value of nurturing a nurturing environment in helping every child reach their potential. My experience as both a professional and a parent has reinforced my belief in the transformative power of early intervention and responsive caregiving. It's deepened my commitment to spend the next chapter of my career in being relentless in promoting access for children with disabilities, ensuring that they receive the support and opportunities necessary for their development. So the occupational therapy profession plays a vital role in this endeavor, advocating for early detection and designing interventions that actually empower children and their families. And this personal and professional journey aligns closely with my research, and not only as a clinical approach, but as a philosophy of human development. Together with amazing colleagues, a host of students, the body of work underscores the importance of timely and compassionate intervention and in bridging gaps and making sure that no child will be left behind. In a beautifully diverse country, my identity too has been a journey of growth and reflection. Coming from a history of indentured laborers to South Africa, I often grapple with the question of belonging. Am I South African Indian or am I Indian South African? These evolving identities have shaped my sense of purpose, adding layers to my understanding of resilience and community. And this experience of navigating identity has made me even more committed to creating spaces where every child, regardless of background, can feel supported and empowered. And so this lecture is not only about my personal journey, but also about the responsibility we all bear in creating environments where every child's potential can be realized. It's another call to act, to action, and to invest in the nurturing care that shapes our future generations. It's a call to occupational therapists to champion early detection and early intervention, ensuring access and support. For in the love and sacrifice of those who raise us, we find the strength to rise. So if I bring us back to the earlier narratives, they illustrate the profound impact of systemic context on developmental outcomes. The first girl navigated her challenges within a healthcare system constrained by apartheid era limitations, limited diagnostic capabilities, restricted access to specialized services, and institutional barriers that particularly affected Black South African families. Her challenges remained largely undiagnosed, creating a trajectory where adaptation occurred through informal support networks rather than formal intervention pathways. The absence of diagnostic labels in the first case was not merely a limitation, but it might have represented a fundamentally different approach to difference. Without formal frameworks for understanding her challenges, the family developed indigenous coping strategies. The grandmother's illiteracy did not diminish her caregiving capacity. Instead, it represented a different knowledge system, one based on observation, on intuition, and intergenerational wisdom. About navigating physical and developmental differences. If we look at the family system, both cases highlight the critical importance of family constellation in developmental outcomes. The first girl's experience within a female-led household demonstrate how alternative family structures can provide stability and support. Her visibility within this family unit, as noted, suggests Her visibility within this family unit, as noted, suggests that being seen and valued within immediate social networks may serve as a protective factor, even when broader systemic support is lacking. The second girl's experience reflects contemporary understanding of family-centered care and approaches to neurodiversity. The systematic support she receives likely involves and does not only involve the child, but the entire family system, with parents accessing resources, training, and support networks that were unavailable to the previous generation. So our evolution of understanding, the terminology shift from unnamed challenges to neurospicy, as we said, and thus represents more than linguistic preference. It reflects a fundamental evolution in how we conceptualize developmental differences. The first girl lived without diagnostic language to explain her experiences, requiring her to develop personal frameworks for understanding her own needs and capabilities. And this absence of formal recognition, while challenging, may have also protected her from some of the limiting assumptions that can accompany diagnostic categories. The second girl's preference for neurospicy over clinical terminology suggests an empowered relationship with her neurodiversity, one where difference is acknowledged without pathologization. And this represents progress, not in just having appropriate labels, but in having language that affirms rather than diminishes. And in terms of the interventions and outcomes, the contrast in available interventions is stark. The first girl's early musculoskeletal surgery occurred within constrained resources, with limited rehabilitative support. Her developmental trajectory was shaped by necessity-driven adaptation rather than structured intervention. But the second girl benefits from evidence-based early intervention approaches, multidisciplinary teams, and systematic support pathways. Her continued thriving suggests the effectiveness of contemporary approaches to supporting neurodivergent development when implemented well, comprehensively and early. And so the critical observations here and what emerges from these parallel narratives is not a simple story of progress, but a more complex understanding of how different systems shape developmental outcomes. The first girl's success, her navigation through the cracks to some form of thriving, demonstrates remarkable resilience and adaptation. It also highlights how informal support systems can serve protective functions even when formal systems fail. And the second girl's support represents advances in our understanding and our capacity in creating these environments. Yet her story also raises questions about accessibility, whether these advances are actually available equitably across different communities and socioeconomic contexts. And so if we look at the implications for our practice, these cases suggest several important considerations for contemporary practice. They highlight that successful outcomes can emerge from different support models, suggesting the importance of cultural responsiveness and flexibility in intervention approaches. Secondly, they demonstrate that family systems and community connections remain central to positive outcomes, regardless of formal supports. And finally, they remind us that while advances in diagnostic understanding and intervention progress, the fundamental human elements, being seen, being valued, being supported within one's immediate community, remains constant across different eras and systems. And so the question these stories pose is not simply how we can provide better services, but how we can ensure that every child, regardless of the system they are born into, experiences that crucial sense of visibility and belonging that both of these girls, in their different ways, were fortunate enough to receive. And so a quick pause for a dedication before I share some of the additional work. So my mom is 71 today. It's her birthday, and I'm so honored that she could be here. So happy birthday, Mom. My first teacher, my fiercest protector, and the soft place I always get to land. You poured possibility into me when the world offered so little. To Gianna, you are my miracle, you are my muse, and my motivation. Watching you grow reminds me daily of why our work matters. And you both show me that love, not labels, defines who we become. And to my uncle and aunt whose generosity, love, and compassion shaped my early life, you changed the course of my life. You changed the course of my path. And to my other aunts and uncle who are here, thank you for continuing to celebrate my success and in ways in which we maintain our relationship so beautifully and purely. I am so grateful that I get to grow and learn every day with you still impacting my life. What I share now is just a snapshot of the successes. And Mom, this is for you, for my husband, Satish, who's been extremely supportive, and my family who changed my course, and to my daughter, who's encouraged to believe. So Gianna here, Mom, encouraged to believe. And to the many students that we have the privilege of shaping. And I don't want to forget my grandmother, who is no longer with us. And you would not believe, but in her last words, in the wisdom of her last words, and Prof. Chetty would remember we were together at that time, my grandma said that she wanted me to become a professor, and this was even before I got my PhD. She didn't understand what professorship was. She just asked me, what happens when you just keep writing and writing and you finish the book? She called it the book. And so I tried to explain the academic trajectory, and I was actually a bit flippant in the way I actually approached it. But I didn't realize that in that moment, those words that she deposited into me was a dream that she held for me. Sadly, I never got to complete that conversation with her, but she deposited that dream. And I'm so grateful that I'm able today to stand here and say to my Amma that the dream has been fulfilled by her sacrifices and her input into my life. So my role models did not look like me. I do hope that in my story, we create many tapestries of possibilities for the next generation of scholars. And so the snapshot is shared with humility and gratitude, and not a showcase of accolades, but gratitude to the many people who made my journey to this point possible. And there you go. Having started with the Bachelor of OT, there were only 20 students taken in, and I didn't even make the 20. So I had to study another degree, a BSc, and write my first test for the first 2 months, and I joined OT as the last student in that group. But I didn't realize that I actually would complete the degree as the top student. I then started a master's in 2005, but I had to make the difficult decision to stop to be able to enter academia and to be able to navigate that space. And so in 2009, I became a senior tutor at UKZN, and I also got my first publication. I'll tell you a little story about that a bit later. I'm doing my other dedication. And having finished a master's, Prof. Mashigi has already mentioned the scholarship, and then the trajectory goes on. And I've been very blessed to have been able to live this academic life with so many accolades and so much of privilege in being able to reach my potential and to be able to reach these aspects. And you'll note there a little dedication to Satish. Marriage actually was a propellant in terms of my success. And having a little baby didn't stop me either. And that's really special to be able to share. And that only comes from supportive families. And as Professor Mashigi also says, it's a very privileged position to be the first professor of OT in the history of its existence. That comes with a massive responsibility, because what do we leave for the next generation? And I'm so grateful to have had that opportunity. So please stay a little longer with me on this journey. And I am going to take you here. So my wonderful new colleague, Alvaro Hidalgo Robel from Spain, and co-authors published this paper less than a month ago. So this was around end of July. And they confirmed that despite strong evidence, early diagnosis remains challenging globally. And in this particular study, the focus was on cerebral palsy. What these colleagues have highlighted resonates with our current context and systems. We know that in our own context, similar system-level professional and knowledge barriers remain. But the global perspective has also shown in the study that resource-constrained areas like in LMICs can be successful if adaptations are made. And so the studies show that targeted interventions can still significantly improve adoption. And that's what I took out of there, that we can still show and we can still work towards early diagnosis, because our counterparts in HICs are still having challenges in being able to make early detection part of routine care. And then I want to now bring this back to some of the work that I've attempted in the space for early detection. My academic journey straddled two worlds, the empirical and the experiential. And as a clinician, I was really interested in understanding hypotonia better. And so as a researcher, I delved into that space. And so for the audience that requires the definition, developmental central hypotonia refers to reduced muscle tone due to non-progressive brain or brainstem damage. And it includes your encephalopathies, genetic syndromes, brain abnormalities, and brain abnormalities. One of the authors highlighted that developmental trajectories may also be divided into those that have global impairment, mild difficulties, or those that remain with transient difficulties, and they kind of catch up by school age. So the vast majority of evidence discussing hypotonia focuses on distinguishing between central and peripheral hypotonia in neonates or very young children, while developmental central hypotonia has received comparatively little research attention regarding its causes and management. However, this gap is now being recognized and addressed in the recent literature. So these were just some of the pieces of work in trying to understand and trying to move on to consensus a few years ago. And so all of this work culminated in this evidence-based clinical algorithm structured around distinguishing peripheral and central causes of hypotonia. Now, this was almost 10 years ago. Yet for children over 2 years of age, tools for hypotonia evaluation continue to this day to require development. So we have actually not won. So the gap. There are no reliable or valid tools for use in clinical practice. And a valid and reliable means of quantifying hypotonia in this population is needed, primarily for evaluative purposes, since rehabilitation professionals like physiotherapists and OTs may enhance activity and participation, but not necessarily change underlying tone. It's essential to measure both postural and phasic tone and may help to identify potential functional trajectory, which is what we're working towards, and assisting in determining the most appropriate or beneficial interventions. And so I've had the opportunity to continue work with this amazing team. And the latest paper in 2025 represents one of the most comprehensive synthesis of intervention evidence available globally. But beyond producing and appraising the evidence, this team is working at attempting to produce evidence for early and accurate identification of these children and in finding ways to better define central hypotonia. With Dr. Ginny Pellick, who's actually joined us today as the lead on these studies and as the lead expert for the American Academy of Cerebral Palsy and Developmental Medicine Hypotonia Care Pathway. So thank you, Ginny, for joining us, and thank you for finding me and making me part of your team. And so a snapshot of other work that continues in the space. I'm grateful to the many students that I've had the privilege to mentor and collaboratively co-supervise and work with on various projects. And working in the space with an experienced pediatric colleague, Gina Renken, who's here, has also emphasized the need to understand knowledge translation and brokerage towards implementation and in identifying contextually relevant interventions, especially in the neonatal period. And we are so privileged to have been able to also contribute to the position statement for occupational therapy in neonatal care in South Africa, published just in this last year. And in that, we are acutely aware that nurturing care extends to caregivers, and work in the maternal mental health space continues. A privilege again to work with other amazing researchers in the field of maternal mental health and development. And as part of Gina's groundbreaking work in maternal health care and caregiver competence with HIV individuals, Prof. Kitty Ace joining us on this. Really grateful to have had this opportunity. Oops. And then more recently in 2025, working with Stephanie Redinger, one of our ex-students, an absolutely amazing researcher, maternal mental health concerns becoming a priority in occupational therapy practice. And so there was also the shift from evidence to experience. Having worked with colleagues like Prof. Deshni Naidu, Ms. Julie Linga, Dr. Debbie most persons will be familiar with the F words proposed by Rosenbaum and Gorter and operationalized by the Can Child team to translate the WHO ICF into a child-friendly, family-centered framework. The F words has become an influential approach for thinking about child development that moves beyond traditional medical models and really focus on what children can do and the various life domains that matter for their well-being and participation. But it's also important to acknowledge that in a recent review, most people are adopting different ideas. There are some people who have also rejected or are hesitant to use the F words. So while the evaluation of hesitancy is required to be formally explored, barriers have been mainly due to attitudinal barriers. And so, for example, service providers often say, the F words are nothing new. Everybody knows and does this already. But we have recent colleagues who just in May this year launched on the site who have developed the F words lens tool. And when applied as a tool to identify intervention components, it changes the way we see interventions. And so in this lecture, we're going to take a little bit of a deviation and appreciate the simplicity of what we are called to do. So no more professing strong science. I would like to introduce someone who embodies potential and possibility and who presents lived reality of what F words is in action. So I'm going to call Gianna. So I'm so sorry, we're just waiting for the sound. Please just give us a moment while our technical colleagues assist.
Hi everyone. I'd like to introduce you towards this. As I understand, don't worry, don't be sad that word. These are special and personal experience.
Prof, it looks like you are it's muted. We can't hear the sound.
Okay, so this brave girl's gonna go live. Well done, Fiona.
Functioning. Functioning is about learning to do things, but here's the thing. There's not just one right way to do things. If I'm learning to write, maybe practice making letters in the sand, or maybe we get me a special pencil that fits my hand just right. And my family understand exactly which idea might help me succeed. Friends, together is better. Grown-ups sometimes need to know that friendship isn't something different from getting better. Friendship is part of getting better. We learn together, we help each other, and we celebrate together. You know my friend Ava Grace helped me be brave on the monkey bars? You see, we all sometimes need friendship. Now turn to someone near you and give them a high five. See? Instant friends. Family. My superhero home team. My family knows me best, and the lens to help everyone remember that my family has superpowers too. The tool shows how my parents can learn new ways to help me and how we can change things at home to make everything work better for our whole family. My parents learned something we can change about our house or a new way we do our family routines. My family isn't just watching me from the sidelines, they're playing on the field with me. Like, maybe if we change how we sit during family time so I can be comfortable, or Dad learns new ways to help me with my homework. My family is part of the team and making it happen. I hope you have you special people in your life. Fitness. My body works my way. Fitness does fitness does Fitness doesn't mean I have to be the next Olympic swimmer, though I would be amazing. It means my body feels strong and happy so I can do the things I love. Maybe I want to ride on a tire swing without being scared with my friend Ava Grace. Fun, giggles, and good time. Fun is super important. It's not just playing, it's about feeling joy and being happy. Fun can be anything. It's laughing until my tummy hurts. Playing is my favorite game. Listening to music that makes me want to dance, or even just making silly faces in the mirror. Sometimes what's fun for me might be different from what's fun for you. And that's okay. Fun is about feeling happy and light inside. Future. My dreams are big. When I think about my future, I get butterflies in my tummy. The good kind. Maybe I want to be a fashion designer, or a vet, or a world leader. Or maybe I want to invent something that helps other kids or helps other children that has more challenges, like not to be able to walk or move or speak. The lens tool reminds everyone that my dreams matter. Whenever I want to drive my own car one day and have my own family, or be able to cook my favorite meal perfectly, all my dreams are important. And the best part that grown-ups help me understand how on things today connects for my dreams tomorrow. It's like I'm building a bridge from where I want to be for where I want to be. It's great to feel I'm the star of my own story, not just something that happens to me. I'm not broken and needed to be fixed. I'm a whole person with strengths and dreams who just needs the right support to shine. I feel heard. I feel seen. I'll feel like we're all in this together, working towards my dreams.
And so this brings us to the point where I want to, and it's very dangerous. Thank you. And so this brings us to a point where it might be dangerous to mention people, but I am going to mention a few people that have really had an impact in my life in very different ways. And I have included them for particular mentions. And in no particular order, Professor Sabia Isaac, I'm so grateful that you're here physically with us. You made me love academia, and that's why I remain, not for any secondary benefit, but purely for the love and the beautiful role model in which you have been over your extended period here. So I'm extremely grateful to you. And thank you for taking me back when I wanted to leave. Mrs. Julie Linga, who's not here. Julie Linga gave me my first job. And the only thing I remember her saying is that we had 15 graduates from my class and we had 15 people apply for the same job. And she gave it to me. And I always asked her why. She said, because you weren't trying to impress. And so that was really special of Julie putting that in my heart, because I realized from that day, you didn't need to do too much to impress. Your actions needed to speak. And so Julie, you've been like another mom to me in my academic career. You've put me in spaces where I'd never belonged. Even though I used to drive you to meetings, you gave me a seat at that table, and that's where most of my learning occurred. I'm extremely grateful to you for your leadership as well, and for changing the trajectory even of the OT department over time. And then I'm going to go down there to Prof. Robin Jubé, who I know is probably joining us online as well. Prof. Jubé started the occupational therapy program at UKZN and was relentless in making sure that that program maintained its integrity and accreditation. And so I'm always grateful to Prof. Robin Jubé for starting the program and also for her leadership over an extended period and also serving as my PhD supervisor. Prof. Percy Mashige, thank you for allowing me to be a leader as part of your team. The millions of midnight calls, dear Prof, has also grown and shaped me over this last 2 years, and I'm extremely grateful to you for your wisdom and for your leadership. Thank you for all that you do and for the strength that you also showcase, because that really is a testament in itself. And then I'm going to come back up here to Prof. Anil Chaturgun. Without knowing me, dear Prof, you embraced me and you showed me so much about what a good leader is. And you also modeled integrity. And I'm so grateful to you, having worked with you in almost the last 2 years, to have the DVC of Research of your university sit in a space to hear the little that I have is really, truly humbling as well. Thank you so much, Prof. And down there too, Dr. Kathy Cleland, and that's the registrar of our university. I am one of the few privileged people to know Dr. Cleland. And I want to remind her, and with the most respect, Dr. Cleland was the only person who was willing to read my first publication. And I don't think she realized what she did in that moment. And to you, Dr. Cleland, thank you so much, because with your status and having read that first publication, you made me believe I could do it. And I used to be in awe of people who had all these publications, and I can't believe I went over that 100 mark. And although it's not about the numbers, it's about the belief that you also showed me. And I'm going to come back up there. Prof. Nadesan, thank you so much for giving me my first PhD student. And yes, it is an anomaly, a first PhD student in physiotherapy, not even in my discipline. I thank you so much for that opportunity, because that also scaffolded my belief in me being a PhD supervisor. So I'm grateful to you, Prof. I've got there Prof. Pat DeWitt, and I saw a little note earlier that she's online as well. Prof. Pat DeWitt, you might be wondering why I've put you on there. And so Prof is from WITS, and she headed the OT department at WITS for a very long time. Prof. Pat took me into her home without knowing me as my first external examining experience at WITS, and she embraced me as her own. And apart from that, she was there at my first international conference. And I remember pulling me aside and giving me rescue, and I didn't know rescue had a bit of alcohol in it. But I took it unknowingly, and she calmed me down before I had to do that first international presentation. And I'll always be grateful to you, Prof, for also making me believe that I could do that. And so you'll see I'm putting the persons here that were part of my firsts. And if I've missed out anyone, please do not be offended. And last but not least, okay, let's not go last. I'm going to go to Ginny Paleg. I did tell you earlier, thank you for finding me. This is one of those most relentless, amazing women who's changing the face globally of research in early intervention and detection. I have the most respect for her, and I got to recently meet her this year. So thank you so much for everything that you do and embrace me and allowing me to have this amazing international partnership with you. And then I've got my dear Prof. Varusia Chetty. We have a history that goes for more than 10 years. And I might get a little personal here, but I'm going to say it. Prof. Varusia Chetty was with me when I found out I was pregnant. She was there when my baby was born, teaching me how to be a mom. She walked this PhD journey from scholarship that we both received, through to us achieving our PhDs together, through to both of us achieving professorship together, through both of us achieving NRF rating together. And I want to share that having a critical buddy who walks beside you and spurs you on is exceptionally important in this career, especially to my young colleagues who are striving to get to the ranks of professorship. You need that one special person who's got you and who walks with you. And whilst those journeys may not last forever, that is what scaffolds you, that you have someone you can trust, that believes in you, and that walks with you. And so I'm eternally grateful to you for walking this journey with me and for teaching me more than just what academia is, but definitely about what it is also to be a good mom, which is certainly role model. And the very many people that sit here, my colleagues, I'm eternally grateful to you. Dr. Mpanza, who's the head of Department of Occupational Therapy, who, if you would allow me to say, Dr. Mpanza was a student at undergraduate, master's, and PhD. I had the privilege of working with Dr. Mpanza over an extended period. Him and I have a longer relationship than my husband and I, so I always use that as an example. And I see here there's Dr. Thev Goreya, who's actually was one of my bosses and my colleagues. And to my young colleagues, please don't feel left out. We're here to be part of this group that nurtures and grows you so that you one day will be standing here and saying the very same, actually doing a better job than I'm doing right now. To my dear family, I have to acknowledge my family who's here today. And I'm going to start with the new matriarch of our family, Auntie Pat. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Auntie Ragni, thank you so much for taking the time to come. Segi Mama, thank you so much for being here. And Ate, sorry, I'm using all my Tamil names. My cousin, who's my brother, Tishian, and my other brother, Mitesh, thank you for being here. Mom and Gianna. And I want to say a special hello to my special family in the UK, Uncle Dana and Auntie Vasantha, and my cousin Croatia. They've been part of my very special family, and I'm very sad that they weren't able to be here today, but I know and I honor you today as well as part of my beautiful journey. And thank you for allowing me to do these acknowledgements. I really appreciate it. And so to close, I began this journey by speaking of two girls, two generations, two different encounters with systems designed to support or fail to support child development. Let me end where potential truly begins. It begins with women like you, Mom. At 71, you still represent the invisible foundation upon which visible success is built. Mom, every degree I've earned, every child we have the privilege of helping, every research breakthrough, it all goes back to your sacrifices. And I get to do this more than once and say thank you to you today. Your belief, your love. So this professorship is as much yours as it is mine. It begins with you, little Gianna, who reminds us daily that difference is not deficit. I'm so proud of you being so brave today. Potential comes in many forms. And when systems work, when early detection meets family support, meets evidence-based intervention, extraordinary things become possible. But most fundamentally, potential begins whenever we decide that every child deserves what my daughters received. Early recognition, support, and the unwavering belief that they can not only survive, but thrive brilliantly. So in embedding lived experience, I'm motivated to work more intentionally to create systems where early detection is routine, not revelatory. Whether as professionals, parents, or community members, that nurturing care remains the foundation upon which scientific knowledge builds its power. And my own journey propels the need to take broken systems in designing better ones, from being missed in a system to ensuring no child is invisible. And the story is a blueprint for what becomes possible when we refuse to accept that children should thrive despite systems. No, instead, we should insist that they thrive because of them. So where potential begins is where we recognize it, we nurture it, and we refuse to let it remain unrealized. My mother's sacrifices, my grandmother's wisdom, Gianna's future, children's possibilities, they are all connected in this fundamental truth. When systems work early enough, the future follows. Thank you so much, everyone.
Congratulations, Prof. You know, I have tears rolling down my face as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, and friends. It is with great pleasure and profound gratitude now that we want to thank Prof. Pragashnie, Govender, for delivering such a remarkable inaugural lecture, which was titled "Where Potential Begins, Nurturing Care, Early Detection, and in the Intergenerational Power of Possibility," and how well she demonstrated this to us through the tale of two kids, different journeys. We are really grateful, Prof. UKZN is very privileged to have you among its academics. I really also felt the topic and the perspectives that you brought, they undoubtedly inspire further exploration and discourse within our academic community and beyond. Your dedication to advancing knowledge and your ability to engage us with such clarity and enthusiasm are truly commendable. I would also like to thank UKZN for hosting this event. Your commitment to fostering intellectual growth and celebrating academic excellence has made this occasion possible. We wouldn't have known all these stories that are deeply touching and deeply moving. A special thanks goes to the organizing committee, the event staff, and all those who work tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the success of this lecture. Your efforts in coordinating this event, from logistics to technical support, have not gone unnoticed. To our esteemed guests, including those that joined online, our academics, our deans, our registrar, dignitaries and faculty, and our students, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Your presence and your support underscores the importance of this milestone in Professor Pre's academic journey, and it reflects a shared commitment to scholarly excellence within our community. I would like to extend also gratitude to the students, colleagues, and members of the audience, both here and in person, and those who joined us virtually, for your active participation and engagement. It is this vibrant intellectual spirit that drives the institution forward. Finally, let us all once again applaud Professor Pre for an exceptional letter that has enriched our understanding and inspired all of us. We look forward to the continued impact of your scholarship and leadership in occupational therapy, Prof. Thank you. And will you please all join me in a round of applause for Professor Pre and everyone that made this event a success. Thank you, colleagues. Enjoy whatever is remaining of your day, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
I know Prof. Isaacs here and Prof. Anil, and I didn't want to lose this opportunity to also give you a chance.